good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another video. It's finally time to go over that game with a fine-tooth comb. And this is the post-mortem from Manchester City's 2-0 loss at Anfield. You might notice I didn't get a chance to do a video last night or the watch-along. Mercifully, life sort of got in the way yesterday for a whole myriad of reasons. I missed the first half of the first half, so I missed a quarter of the game. I've caught up to it now, unfortunately. I have watched the first 25 minutes that I missed. Sort of wish I didn't, really. It's like sort of watching surgery on yourself. It's not a pretty sight whatsoever. So I do feel sort of fit to talk about this game now in decent detail, given that I've seen the entire game and I've seen what City had to offer and where we're at. And it's also 24 hours later, so everyone's calmed down a little bit. People aren't throwing muck at each other, and everyone is sort of going around, and everyone's calmed a little bit. It's weird because I was sort of thinking about this when I was driving home before. Like, how do we sort of approach this game? How do we talk about it? And there's two ways to talk about it, because I feel like right now there's a sort of new normal for Manchester City, because we're still thrashing around trying to work out what's going on. And I don't know if it's even complicated anymore. I think everyone knows what's going on. We'll touch again on that to an extent. But we know what's going on. Like, we know what's causing this. We know that City have issues in terms of age profile. We know that we have issues in terms of legs in midfield. We know we have issues in terms of goals out wide, and we know we have issues in terms of injuries and maybe one or two transfers failing. These aren't new discussion points. We've been talking about them for over a month already now in this run of 7 games without a win and 6 losses. So this isn't new information. They do feed into this, of course, in the results and the narrative of this game, and how we talk about it, and they will get mentioned. But I also thought it's probably worth now talking about this as in the sort of new normal and what we've learned away from all that. Because I could sit here if you want me to and just moan about the transfer recruitment and moan about all that kind of stuff and Gundo's old and blah blah blah. But what you're learning from that? What are we learning from that? Whereas I think the more interesting discussion is, what is Guardiola trying to do? How soon can we sort it? Where do we go from here? Where's the next result? Really just sort of go through the bones of this discarded meal and work out what's happening right now. And I think that's more interesting. The game itself, obviously, we got to touch on that. Like, for me, the game itself, and it sounds wild saying this. If someone told me 2-0 beforehand, I probably would have shrugged and taken that. Like, I would hope for more, obviously, always, but I do feel like that wasn't. It could have been much worse. And it sounds awful saying this, but on another day, Liverpool could have humiliated Man City. That could have been a 5-0. It really could have been. Like, they had chances. Van Dijk, fortunately, had a square-shaped head. Salah missed a very clear one-on-one. And look, we could have scored at one point when De Bruyne went through and goal. It would have flattered us. We didn't really offer anything going forward. A 2-0 loss, as painful it is, given everything right now, it was not the worst result. It absolutely wasn't. It was worst technical result in terms of being a loss, but it wasn't an annihilation, and that is the only sort of. That is the only real positive I can take from it. And if I'm being really, really honest as well, I did actually think the way that we steadied the ship a little bit in that first half, just to stop conceding chances for 20 minutes, was reasonably comforting. I did think that the substitutions, changed up a little bit, and when we brought wingers on, even though it wasn't a solution, I do feel it did sort of give City a little bit of impetus, and for a small period of time, it looked like we might actually threaten Liverpool a tiny bit. We sort of messed that up almost immediately, and when De Bruyne came on when we were 2-0 down, and the penalty was another clusterfuck of messes. But I thought it was going to be much worse than it was. That's not to say it was good. But I didn't walk away from that truly depressed. Probably because my head's already in the ground anyway, and the wheels had already fallen off, and you can't sort of be. You can't moan about stalling when your wheels are already off the car, if that makes sense. Who gives a shit? You're not going anywhere anyway. So this is where we're at right now. We're trying to sort of approach it and discuss it from a position of relative negative already, And the thing for me, when I look at that first 20-odd minutes, is, in the chat there, Hayden said we looked frantic. And to be honest, we did. We looked shell-shocked. We looked like we didn't have any confidence whatsoever. And I think it's very obvious when you've got so many senior players with so much experience making mistakes, and you go through the combination of the goals, every single one of the defenders probably made a mistake at some point. You'd argue that maybe Ake should have got across to Salah quicker for the cross for the first goal. But, I would argue that Ake actually had a decent game overall, but you could argue that there was mistakes from Akanji, Diaz, Ortega, Kyle Walker and all that. Then Bernardo Silva, giving the ball away sloppily, and I don't know, Guardiola was trying with Rico Lewis out wide. You guys know how I feel about Núñez. I don't think the Núñez experiment's ever going to work, and I feel quite strongly about that. I feel sorry for Núñez, actually, but I feel like Núñez is sort of symbolic of where City are at these days, just poor recruitment. I think he's a sort of poster boy for the problems. That's not to say he is the problem. Do not get me wrong. I meant when I look at City and I see that, I think that's the guy's meant to be a solution, but Guardiola just sort of playing against his will, I would argue. I thought Rico actually had a decent game as well. Rico actually, I don't think needed the Núñez midfield thing. Look, he's not. It's a plaster on a big wound. Like, Núñez isn't the solution. He isn't. Go for it now if you want to, mate, but it's not going to change anything. A short-term fix for a big problem. I don't think he'll even fix it. That's my sort of genuine feeling at it. Núñez is not a winger, and I got roundly sort of abused for a lot of people for saying that. And you were wrong. You got a couple of assists, and I said they was not going to last. And I didn't want to dunk on him when he was on the up, but it was never going to last. I told people it wasn't going to last. He had a really weird hot spell, but and it's annoying because, I don't want to... I'm not trying to single anyone out. And Brian, have a look, I'm not trying to single anyone out. I really don't think Núñez is the problem. I feel like he's sort of just an example of where we've messed up at some point. Which the reason I think I'm so hyperfixated on Núñez is because I feel like he sort of reminds me of where we've gone wrong, if that makes sense. Not that he's the problem. It's more reminded me of our failings in the transfer market. So when I see him, he's sort of a reminder of... He's a reminder to me of us taking our eye off the ball. Does that make sense? I'm not having a go at him. And I don't look, and Mad Hat's getting annoyed in the chat with capital letters saying we need legs. Do you know what we really need? We didn't really have many legs when Gundogan was a pivot several years ago, and we had David Silva alongside De Bruyne. Do you know what we had? We had youngish footballers who were fit, but smarter than the rest of them. We beat teams with Gundogan as a 6, David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne. Our legs were just smarter than theirs. Like, I don't think we need this giant team of athletes. The problem is, we've got players who are tired or old in midfield or unfit. So this is the problem. Like, I don't think everyone's like fantasizing over these incredibly athletic players. That would be nice, but I don't really think we're desperate for it. We're desperate for smart footballers who are young and fit again. This is my issue. Like, people who run smarter, not quicker, not faster. We've never been the fastest in midfield. Rodri's strong, but he's not the fastest. Gundogan, when he was at his very best, was never the fastest. David Silva was never the fastest. De Bruyne was physical, I'll give you that one. Bernardo Silva, when he was in the heart of midfield, was never the fastest. Bernardo Silva's best ever performance, in my opinion, was in the heart of midfield alongside Fernandinho when we beat Liverpool 2-1 in 2019. So I feel, when I look at it, does that work these days? Of course it does, mate. Of course it works. If you can't, it's entirely down to, and I agree, it's when they had better legs, but I meant younger legs. We've either got old heads or very young players who aren't ready, and this, my issue is entirely down to the profile of players. We don't need the world's fastest midfielders. Like, I guarantee you, if we had a young Gundogan again and a young David Silva again, we would stroll all these teams, even with their faster players, because they wouldn't get the ball. We'd move it smarter. That's it. So that to me it's just profile. It's not, and this is why when I say, like, I'm not hating on Núñez, but I don't think Núñez is going to change anything because we still won't have the control we need. I feel like we're just sort of thrashing around, and this is what I don't want to do. What I don't want to do personally is thrash around and look for a solution. I don't think we can do. I don't think there is a quick fix solution, and Uh, everyone's fantasizing, but Stephen said 3 weeks ago after the whatever win that we'll win 5th in a row. I don't remember saying we'll win 5th in a row, mate. I said we might do, but like either way. By the way, I was the one after the Fulham game who said just get to January because I thought it was going to be difficult. But anyway, it's irrelevant. We can't point your fingers, and I'm talking about the here and now. Right now, the issues cannot be fixed quickly. They just can't. They can't. It clearly is. It's something that's going to take time, and I think I've accepted that in my head. I've accepted that this is a problem that is going to require surgery. It's going to require some players getting their fitness back. It's going to require some players being moved on, some players coming in. It's going to require, a little bit of luck as well to get the confidence back. Trey with a super chat. Thank you so much, Trey. You said, let me just bring it across. As he says, hang on, can't quite see it. Is that fitting now? Yeah. Trey said I had something queued up to say yesterday, but we're going to have to move forward. Deal with it. Finish top 4 and rebuild next year. Point blank. Period. I'm sort of with you, mate. My expectations. I wouldn't say they've dropped off a cliff, but they've changed. And expectations doesn't mean that's set in stone. They can shift. Expectations are fluid, but right now, given the current picture, I'm very much in the whole top 4 and see where we're at, as long as we start showing signs of pushing forward. But I am not really angry about yesterday. I think I've gone past how does the stages of denial work? Well, let me the stages of grief. Let's have a look. The 5 stages of grief. We'll see where we're at right now. I'll go away, Wikipedia. So where are we at? So I've gone into denial. I think I've already denied that we were on the way down. I've been anger. Maybe I'm bargaining right now. I think I'm bargaining actually. I've got bargaining and depression. I think I'm in acceptance. Whereabouts are you on the stages of grief? I don't know whereabouts you are right now, but this is where I am. I don't know where you are, but I'm somewhere on that curve somewhere. I don't think you know until you know. I've gone past anger anyway. I'm definitely stage 5 acceptance. Yeah, I think I'm somewhere around that. And Victor said we're at the stage we won a treble in 4 in a row. Victor's bargaining right now. You're bargaining, mate. No, honestly, I am reasonably calm. Because, look, I'm calm because maybe I'm bargaining because I didn't actually think we'd win this game. And I don't see this changing anytime soon. Simply because, not that we're not capable, but simply because I just don't think we have the tools right now. I do think there will be at some point a little bit of luck in terms of the changes, and I think we'll get a result at some point. It might be Forest, it might be Palace. It's just one of those things where I don't know what's going to come, and I really do feel it's possible at some point players come back from injury and things change around a little bit. Do I see us winning? Liverpool will drop max 15 points this season. That's 5 losses. Max. Very max. It's not going to be more than that. That means City would have to be perfect to turn that around. I don't see that. I just don't think we're currently capable without Rodri. I'm not going to sit here with a crystal ball though and tell you what we will or can't do because I don't think this will happen for what it's worth. I still think it's unlikely. But if you want an idea of how things could turn like that, you could sign a Zubimendi, and City could be aggressive and sign 2. We might be surprised. You might sign a backup striker and think, fuck it, Haaland needs a break. We could sign a Zubimendi. Oscar Bob could return. Kovacic could stay fit. De Bruyne might end up playing some games. I know you're going to go, you won't play games. Stop relying on De Bruyne. I'm not relying on De Bruyne. I'm painting a picture where we get lucky. That's what I'm doing. And in that scenario where those things happen, then I actually can see City winning a fair few games, if everyone comes back and it's all right. It doesn't mean that's going to happen. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. I'm just trying to paint an idea where it could do. For me, what I want to see right now, I actually do want to see Guardiola sort of throw a bit of caution to the wind. And I would like to see Guardiola try something. And I actually thought the signs of him trying... I actually feel the signs of Guardiola trying to play Grealish centrally were actually quite encouraging. I don't think Grealish is going to be a solution, but when I think about what we do lack in the midfield, I think we lack physicality, strength, a bit of height. And I think we lack a little bit of ball retention and technical ability. I do actually think Grealish possesses all those attributes. I'm not yet convinced he's going to be a great midfielder, but right now, I would absolutely, hand on heart, prefer to see Grealish give that go than Gundogan. Like, we're not seeing that again, apparently, according to Joel. Well, I didn't know you'd had a chat with Pep, mate, so I stand corrected. Even though Guardiola said he has a feeling that Grealish could play central, he could solve some of the problems. So he said that. All I can do is take Guardiola's word for it. He might not try it again, but Guardiola said he's going to give it a go. If he doesn't, he doesn't. If he does, I'm curious, But I'm not saying I want to see Grealish central. I'm just more saying I want to see things like this where we try, because I want to see ideas, ideas are fine. Like, I actually, so I'll go to the super chat as well from Piff. Thank you so much, my friend. It's really appreciated. Who said, realistically, we would never beat Liverpool given our current form. The performance was a troubling thing. The performance to me was no more troubling than anything we have seen. It was sort of what I expected. Liverpool are miles better than us. So I did expect a level of performance like that. Yeah, we were never going to beat them. Anything was just sort of, it was optimistic to feel that way, we could have, but I didn't really see it either, personally. I think that it was never going to happen. The performance was worrying. I don't think I can't be more worried than what I expected. Like, that performance had come 3 weeks ago, I would have been worried, but like, it's happened 7 times now, so I can't say I'm worried. It was happening while winning games as well, so I'm not worried as such. I'm more just like, this is what I guess that's where my head is at. It's just more proof of what we know, and I guess it's really weird to say that we have to sit here and just accept it to an extent, but we just do. Like, there's nothing much we can do. We can all sit here and cry, and I guess if anyone wants to cry, I'll get a tissue out for you. There you go. It's okay. I'll wipe your eyes for you. There you go. You're more than welcome. Maybe this can be a safe space to vent, go for it, and all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely fine to rant and all that kind of stuff and get it out. And I also don't feel, by the way, I also don't feel calls for Pep to change everything or anything other than emotional. I don't think Pep should change his principles. I don't think he does. I don't think the principles are an issue here. And I'd really, really, hand on heart, be wary of falling into that trap of thinking that we know more than Pep Guardiola on this. No, I think Pep's got every right to stick to what he knows. I would argue that there should be maybe some changes in personnel. I'm always sort of worried about even saying that sometimes, because we just don't know what's happening in training. Like, we don't know if these players are changed and then getting battered by the other players. We don't know if Pep's playing the ones that play well in training or not. We just don't know. But we can only presume that, based on what we've seen, we can only comment on what we've seen. And what we're seeing in games right now is that the current methods aren't working, and we're going to have to see a change at some point. There's a few little things that bugged me, and this is a safe space. Look, ultimately, just because I'm going to moan about these things, it doesn't mean I think they're the world's biggest issues. I don't think they're the world's biggest issues, but I think the things to get off your chest a little bit. I don't know how you guys felt about the sort of, the smiling and laughing during the game. I don't really usually care about these things. I am a very calm person. I understand they're humans. I understand people sometimes laugh in the face of adversity. It slightly bugged me. I don't know if that's because I'm in a bad mood, but watching the players have a laugh mid-game with certain people, like, I just don't think we would have seen that 3 or 4 years ago. And they just didn't seem angry enough for me, and it sort of bugged me a little bit. Usually those things don't bug me, but I think the current mood combined with that, I found it a little bit annoying. It was very pally, yeah, and Haaland just sort of laughing and chatting away with Van Dijk. I was thinking, I understand Van Dijk might have told the funniest joke in the world, and he might have laughed, but he just sort of like, I want him angry, man, and like Kanju's doing a bit of it. I didn't know how to feel about Guardiola do the 6 thing as well, like, he felt a bit Mourinho to me, and he's got every right to do it. Someone replied to me on Blue Sky, by the way, and said, you've got to bear in mind, some of these players don't know how to handle this in terms of losing, which is a very good point. It's a very good point. They don't know how to handle this, some of these players. It's new territory for them, and I do understand that, I do understand that if you don't know how to lose, you can come out and you can say the wrong things, or you can try and deal with it. And I understand Guardiola coming out and saying, defending his record and all that kind of stuff. it's a little bit Mourinho to constantly hark back to the past. I understand why you do it, but and I could be overthinking here, and I'm not going to try and teach Guardiola how to suck eggs, and he has every right, absolutely has every right. I just worry there's a line where it crosses into self-preservation at the extent of honesty, if that makes sense. Because when Diaz came out afterwards, and I saw a quote that when Diaz in an interview with everyone, that everyone was really enjoying the Diaz quote, and you might have enjoyed it too. But I actually didn't really like it when someone asked him, like, oh, what's the key? I'm paraphrasing, but someone said, look, what's the discussions in the dressing room? How do you get out of these kind of moments? And Diaz basically just said, do you know who I'm talking to? We've won 4 in a row. Why are you asking that question? And he felt a little bit like, do you know who I am? And he felt a little bit arrogant. And I understand what he was trying to do, but I actually felt he got the tone wrong a little bit there. And it's fine. It's not a big deal. It really isn't. But I did actually make me think, I hope they don't spend all the time talking about how great they used to be, because at some point you're going to have to go, yeah, but right now, those titles don't give us wins. Right now, those titles... They don't. He didn't. He basically, I can't remember the exact quote, Digrajai, but it was a sort of like, it was basically on lines of, do you know who you're talking to? This is a team that's won 4 in a row, so you don't have to ask us those questions. We'll deal with it. And it was to me, it felt a little bit arrogant. And it was like, I don't think he was trying to be arrogant. I think he was trying to sort of front up a little bit and be brave and chest out. And I understand why that happens, but I was like, a little bit like, I don't think that, to me, that's what's happening in the dressing room. How are they questioning us? We've won 5 out of 6 titles. There's an element of believe in yourselves. We've won 5 out of 6 titles. But I don't like it if they go to journalists and go, don't you dare ask me. I've won 5 out of 6 titles. At that point, I'm like, and I'm not, it's not a big deal. I do agree that he's a reasonably young man, Diaz still. He's still only mid-20s, and I do feel that they're trying to learn how to say, they're trying to be bullish and trying to front up, and I just don't think the squad comfortably are right now comfortable. I know it's sort of funny as well, but I wasn't really that keen on Ortega's comments about Liverpool, the area. I sort of laughed, but like, come on, man! It comes across as a bit of sour grapes. You probably shouldn't. Yeah, you probably shouldn't be mocking an entire area. It's a little bit. And I don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's currently right now the quotes are coming off to me a little bit defensive and a little bit frustrated. And I'm not hearing. For me personally, I'm not hearing things that make me go, "We're gonna be all right here." I'm hearing defensiveness, and I'm hearing. Just people like, look, and some people are going to take this out of context and say I'm having a go at them. I'm not concerned by it, but I definitely feel a little bit like, I don't think they're currently comfortable. They're not happy right now. That's fine. I don't think they know how to handle this, and that's also fine. You learn how to win, you learn how to lose, and I think right now, it was defensive and defiant. I think he tried to come across as defiant, chaotic, but to me it came across as defensive, which I think was wrong. But anyway, I'm not trying to do this to pick out Guardiola, pick out Ortega, pick out Diaz. I'm just trying to work out where the players' heads are and where the mentality's at right now. And I think Bernardo being a bit spiky during the game. The players don't look happy. I don't want them to be happy. But then when you've got the players laughing mid-game, it's like, it's very hard to read. That's all I'm trying to do, try and get my head around it. Thank you very much for the haircut comments, SJF. Ruben got his haircut today as well, my son Ruben. He looks absolutely beautiful, and that made me smile, Me and my boy got our haircuts today. Look at my little boy, man. Look how beautiful that little one. Look at him. Look at that little haircut. Look at that little man. There we go. Look at his haircut. Beautiful, man. So I got my haircut today with my son. It was adorable. So... this is where my head's at right now. I'm not that confident with the noises that are coming out. Guardiola's rightfully defending his side. He's rightfully defending his record. Frustration is fine, yeah. But it's one of those, he's got a big, he's massive, isn't he? Yeah? He's absolutely huge. It's quite scary how quickly Ruben's growing. Yeah, he's still tiny, obviously, but he's beautiful. Can he play centre midfield? No, he's not physical. One thing I'll give you, Ruben is not physical. Smart, don't get me wrong. But he's going to be one of those guys where his touch is better than his physicality one day. But I'm not, like today, I am not in a disastrous headspace because I do feel Like, I liked looking at the bench yesterday. Even though I don't feel like everyone's fully back, I liked seeing the bench and seeing options, even if I don't think it's fully there. I liked seeing the wingers on the bench. I liked seeing De Bruyne on the bench, you know. It's sort of reasonably reassuring that there was some players that could come off it, you know. They had Doku, Savinho, Grealish, De Bruyne, Ederson, Vardiol. And there's some high-quality players there. And, you know, if we can get Kovacic back anytime soon, you know, and Oscar Bob's not a million miles back either, then hopefully, you know, things start to change around and the fitness comes, you know. Nottingham Forest is going to be difficult. I'm expecting that to be an absolute pain in the arse, simply because how Nottingham Forest play is our kryptonite, you know. Strong and physical in the midfield, a bullish number 9, and there's shit tons of pace out wide. You know, Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, Olarena, Nico Williams. They are so good. They're really good. They are such a functional, well-organised side. And they've got Milinkovic and Murillo in centre-back. Like, Forest are fucking organised. They are the exact kind of side that are giving us trouble right now, because they are so happy to sit back and defend and then hit anyone on the counter-attack. And we are very, 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 very bad at dealing with that right now. They're going to hit Hudson-Odoi and Elanga out wide, and they're going to give us trouble. We could lose it. What I'm hoping... I would love to know what's going on with De Bruyne. Like, it's the concerning thing for me is that KDB, my best mate, of course, given he follows me on Twitter now, best friends. I still don't buy that Guardiola wouldn't play De Bruyne if he wasn't fit. Like, I just don't. I'm a firm believer in Occam's razor as a principle in life, and Occam's razor is, you know, a very simple. It's a philosophy in life. It's a problem-solving principle, which basically goes like this: that suggests the simplest explanation is often the most likely to be correct, and like I try and put most of life through that, you know. And so using that as a sort of method and getting my philosophy here is, if you apply that to De Bruyne, the most simple explanation why De Bruyne is not playing is simply probably because he's not fit enough yet, and he doesn't see himself as, you know, ready. Who cares about Kovacic back? I do, Harry. I would have Kovacic start any day of the week over Gundogan, and you'd be mad not to. Like, Kovacic is our best midfielder right now. He is. I'm not saying he's been perfect, but Kovacic has been better than Bernardo. He's been better than Foden. He's been better than Gundogan. I'm not saying he's been great, but he's had some good games this season, Kovacic, and the others haven't. The others haven't had any. So that's where I stand, you know. I'm not saying Kovacic is great, but I absolutely would take Kovacic back in a heartbeat. He's doing a tough job as a number 6 when he's not, but Kovacic is really useful. Miles better than our current midfielders. I really agree. So yeah, City's lost 4 in a row. We've got to own it, Josh, haven't we? But yeah, onto De Bruyne. I just have to believe that De Bruyne, like, Guardiola would kill for De Bruyne to be fit. He would kill for him to be fit. And it's one of those things where, you know, I do worry how much he's got left in the bank. You know, I do worry, like, I think for what it's worth, I think De Bruyne might leave in the summer. But do I really think De Bruyne wants to walk out of City right now like this, where he's barely playing and not involved? No, I don't believe that. Like, I don't think De Bruyne wants to walk out. I don't think he wants to walk out of Man City barely playing. I think that's a conspiracy theory stuff, Victor. I don't think De Bruyne is holding back to get £100 million in Saudi Arabia. I don't think he is. The issue is apparently he wants to go to America anyway. Like, I just don't believe he's holding back because of the Saudis. I think he's got too much professional pride. I think he just knows his body. And he said, I'm not 17 anymore. And he isn't. You know, I think he's in pain, actually. I think De Bruyne is in pain, and I think that's the crux of it. I'm going to talk about some individual players, because I think a lot of people are talking about individual players. I'm disappointed in Foden right now. I love Phil. But I sort of hope at some point... Look, how old's Phil now? Phil is he 25, 24? Phil is 24 years old. He turns 25 at the end of this season. Look, he's not old, but he's experienced. And I would very much love to see Phil at some point... I think that was one of Phil's worst ever performances, I would argue. Yeah, I feel like it was one of his worst ever performances off the back of his best ever season, arguably. And I want to see Phil drop deep and demand the ball. I want to see Phil do what Kevin De Bruyne or David Silva would do. I want to see him fucking own that midfield, man. Like, Phil, I love you, pal. I truly do. I've known you for years, personally and professionally. Like, I really do, but I want to see him somehow find a way to influence the game. And I feel like Phil's been told to wait behind Haaland, turn and get a shot away. But I feel, if anything, it's made his game more reductive. And I feel like he's way more creative than... you know what my biggest worry of Phil Foden is? I feel like my biggest worry about Phil Foden is that he won the PFA Player of the Year by scoring goals. And what I mean by that is that Phil has been so desperate for a role, because he's been played on the right wing, he's been played as a false nine, he's been played as a left wing, he's been played everywhere. He's so desperate for a starting role at Manchester City every single season, because it's always changing, that when he finally gets a starting role and wins PFA Player of the Year, I worry it's sort of like a confirmation bias that his value is scoring goals. But no, I would take a Phil Foden that scores 10 less goals a season if he was on the ball more and trying to create. And my sort of worry is that I think he can create a lot better than we realise. He can create. I've seen Phil Foden create chances, and I saw Phil Foden create loads of chances 2 or 3 years ago. But right now, I feel like he feels like his job is to score goals. And I think it's because he's playing closer to the striker than ever. But I want Phil Foden to remember, or at least try and force it a little bit more. Phil Foden is at his very best when he gets the ball, he turns around, drifts past the player and plays a lovely little through ball to someone, or bangs it in from 20 yards. But he's not at his very best when he just turns and shoots. Phil can do that. Phil absolutely can do that. He can create. I know he can create. He always can do. But for whatever reason, his game is he's become like a second striker. I'm sorry, but he is a creator, because I've watched Phil Foden create chances. You guys have watched Phil Foden. I'm not saying he's Kevin De Bruyne, but right now Phil's game has become a little bit more. I just don't. People think he can't create. Right now, he's not doing it. But he can. And I think he's become over-reliant on goals to find his worth in the team. And I feel like he's forgotten what he is. Phil at his very, very best was one-touch passes around the area, those pockets of space, picking the ball up, spreading it, playing those little passes, little triangles, trying to get in behind, dribbling past people. That's what Phil was the best at. And it's so funny because... have I got two-toned hair? No, I've not got two-toned hair. So I just had that. Where does he look? I think it's just a lighting, mate, you know? My hair is not two-toned. He's got the second highest expected assist per night in the league. Is that true? There we go. I didn't know that's true or not. But I'm not saying he's at his creative best, but I think like right now Phil has become a goal scorer, but he's not expressing his creative freedom. And I go through the players, and once again, I'll go through all the players individually, you know, because I think we're at that stage of the video. Ortega, he was all right. I think Ortega's performance yesterday was an Ederson performance, really. He was neither there or no better. I think he made a mistake for the second goal. Ortega has credit in the bank because he's barely played any football. I can't expect him to come in and be perfect, you know. I didn't really care who started yesterday between Ortega and Ederson. Guardiola was trying to try and do something, you know. I think he was right to sort of bring in Ake, because Guardiola's having a really tough time right now. I sort of got the logic behind that. I feel Kanji is still struggling for fitness and tried to step into midfield a little bit. Kanji did actually play a little bit. You're further up the pictures, you can see there. He stepped into midfield a little bit yesterday. Guardiola trying to get him to do something that he doesn't usually do. With mixed results. Kyle Walker just continues to be Kyle Walker. I actually saw a post, by the way, which I entirely agree with, when someone said, I feel like some of the board have not really protected the legacy of some of these senior players. And I actually agree. That, you know, Kyle Walker and people like, you know, they've been given a chance to get old and be sort of hated a little bit. And I think City have a responsibility to not run in Kyle Walker and Gundogan every single week. I think they should have gone out with a lot more love. And the problem is, Kyle Walker's going to go out from Man City and Gundogan too on a massive negative. And it won't change their overall perception. They'll still be Man City legends. But it's such a shame, man. Like I didn't want to see them be run down and dragged out and dragged over the coals, because it's not like, it's not nice. It's not nice. Ake was good yesterday, by the way, but Ake, I've been saying I wanted Ake back for a long time, because Ake's brilliant. I think he was sort of slightly slow to get over to Salah, but, yeah, whatever. Gundogan, this man, unfortunately, just could not keep up with the pace of the ball. Lost the ball 7 times yesterday, which is kind of standard for a midfielder, actually. His pass accuracy was a little bit low by his standards, 87%. Bernardo Silva, I actually thought Bernardo was reasonably okay over until he made that mistake. Bernardo was actually on the ball a fair bit compared to Gundogan, Gundogan came off, of course. Gave the ball away quite a few times. Bernardo, the Silva ain't shining anymore, unfortunately. He's just sort of blunted. Like, I feel like Bernardo needs to play 20 less games a season, because Bernardo Silva is a guy who's known for his running, and he's running and running and running and running and running, but the guy's tired. He's got a newborn as well, by the way, so Bernardo is knackered. Rico Lewis. Rico was okay. Rico buzzed about, couldn't really get involved. He tried his best. Nunes tried his best too, but Nunes, the winger experiment, I think is sort of over personally. Totally fine every now and then, but he's not going to do us anything up there. And Haaland, absolutely not involved, sadly. Kept running into Van Dijk. Haaland is massively out of form. This is where we needed a fucking backup striker, by the way, because Haaland needs a fucking rest too, like the rest of him. And Foden's form is just fallen off a cliff. Rico lost the ball so much. Well, we lost the ball less times than Gundogan and Vingy, but he had the ball less times, to be fair. I don't think Rico Lewis was good, but he tried, And look at the bench. Doku is very decisive. I don't think Doku is great, but I think Doku, I admire his energy. And what I admire about Doku, at very least, is he's fucking ballsy, man. Like, Doku tries to get City up the pitch and tries to make things happen. I actually sort of agree. His final ball is not great, but I do agree the movement around Doku is also bad at the same time. Two things can be true. Doku's final ball isn't great, but also the movement is poor. I think Haaland has lost a little bit of aggressiveness in attacking the near post. I think Doku gave Man City a bit of impetus. And look, I don't think he's still Manchester City's quality level, but I've got to give Doku credit for trying, man. And I think it was a really positive impact. Jack in the centre, I sort of liked it. I liked seeing Jack. I liked City try something new with Jack. And I thought Savinho didn't really get involved. But Savinho and Doku, look, having actual wingers out wide did make a difference as far as I was concerned. I actually quite enjoyed seeing them come on. I did think there are reasonable moments of positivity amidst that mess. I think if you can get Kovacic back anytime soon, give the Grealish experiment a try. I think it's worth a go. Like, I would very much like to see Grealish told to drop deep and get the ball and help progress it up the pitch and work really hard and track back and be aggressive. And I think he'd do a better job than Gundogan right now, unfortunately. I'd like to just give the wingers a go. Doku, Savinho, why not right now? I don't know. My head right now is sort of, confidence is gone. But I wasn't devastated by yesterday because I expected it. I was actually sort of surprised we had one or two moments where we kept the ball a little bit, We won the possession battle at very least. There wasn't much to go off there, but yeah, it could be much worse. And I think it could get worse again before it gets better. I think the problems are severe but weirdly fixable. I think the problems are serious, but I think we could be very surprised how quickly... I'll go to lineup builder over here. I think we'll be very surprised how quickly, if I look forward to next season, how quickly something like this, where if you put Haaland here, you put Haaland there, Ederson in goal again. You might go, I don't know, we'll put Ederson there, Guardiola back there. Diaz will be here still. A Kanji might be there still, Then a new right back. I think we need a new right back. Hopefully Rodri's back. I would say someone like Zubimendi, someone like that. Bob out wide, maybe. Then you could have, don't know, Savinho if he gets a bit more form. Something like this. You can very quickly see how things will turn around, if we get a little bit more confidence. I think Foden will find his confidence at some point. It'd be silly for not, we presume, not to be at Foden back there. You can see how things could turn around a little bit. Like, I do feel like a couple of signings, a couple of fit players, and you've got Rodri and someone like Zubimendi keeping us going. We're not going to get Wirtz, by the way. This is zero chance. Do you know what I want in terms of profile of signings? Like, when you think about what City used to do, City's very best signings weren't always like De Bruyne was like a Wirtz signing, I would argue. Wirtz was very much like a De Bruyne signing. It cost more money, but that was that same level where De Bruyne was the best creator in the league, and Wirtz is basically that. And also De Bruyne was at a slightly he wasn't at Bayern. He was at Wolfsburg, wasn't he, De Bruyne? Where obviously Wirtz is at Bayern, but she's obviously slightly higher level now. But I do wonder if. But then you look at like Bernardo, he was like 23 from Monaco. Gundogan was 25 from Dortmund. David Silva was 23, 24 for Valencia. Who else have we got there? I mentioned Bernardo, De Bruyne from Wolfsburg. Rodri was 23 years old from Atletico. These are the profile signings where I do like, and there's always going to be. When you think about Rodri Atletico, I would say Zubimendi Sociedad is a very similar level of profile. Maybe Zubimendi at Sociedad is more like the Gundogan from Dortmund level, if that makes sense. Very similar players. They are the kind of players that we want now. So when I look forward, I want to see players who aren't 20 years old unless they're a genius. You know, like proper established world-class genius. I don't want to see players who are 28, 29. I want to see that 23 to 25 sweet spot where they went under the radar. Fernandinho was under the radar, but Aguero, Silva, Yaya were not under the radar, mate. They were much higher. Leverkusen higher than Wolfsburg, I agree, by the way, Chile, for what it's worth. But I want to see that level of signing where they're already established in the top league. They played a couple of seasons in the top 5 leagues. They probably played Champions League football. And I want that level of signing, you know. The best players from the likes of Sociedad, the best players from the likes of Bayern if possible. I don't think you're going to take the best players from Real Madrid or Bayern Munich or whatever, but there's always quality players, you know. That level is where I want to see City go. And you'd be surprised how many of these players have release clauses of around 50, 60 million pounds. It's a lot of money, but this is what I want to see City do. Get that, like that's 23 to 25 sweet spot is perfect because they've got 2 or 3 years experience and they've got hunger and energy and they can go for several years. And that's where I want to see City go. And when I look at Calvin Phillips and when I look at Nunes, I know you hate me mentioning those players. They sort of missed on we missed on them in terms of they weren't superstars potentially, you know. We dropped our standards a little bit. When we went for Declan Rice and Bellingham, they were the right level quality. Like, I'm sure both of them would have done good things in the Guardiola. Declan Rice would have been a good player. He would have been a good player for City. Bellingham, I don't think he's perfect, but he's obviously got so much quality. I actually agree that Calvin Phillips made sense on paper, but the mistake we made with Calvin Phillips was not having Champions League experience, I would argue. We need to see a little bit more there. I understand you can't always do that. But yeah, it is what it is. So I don't think this is it's unfixable. I just think we have to be realistic where we're at. Anyway, guys, this is the post-mortem. It was very disappointing yesterday, but it wasn't surprising. I'm very curious to see where Guardiola goes from here. I want to see him be brave. I want to see him be bold and see what happens. Guys, thanks for watching. In a bit, come on, you Blues.